up, everybody? I'm so excited to be here with you all today. Welcome to edYOU, the free virtual college con created just for you. The only college fair you can attend in your pajamas. Okay? So, what is edYOU, you might ask? edYOU is our way of kickstarting your college journey with a crazy amount of tips, tricks, hacks, cheat codes. Okay, we've got influencers, celebrities, and on top of that, we're going to close our show with an incredible musical guest. I'm your host, Dominique Cynthia. I've traveled to over 50 different college campuses throughout my college journey and documented all of them on my YouTube channel at Dominique Cynthia. I graduated last May from the University of Pennsylvania and now live in the best city, New York City, following my dreams to one day become a film director. But that's enough about me because tonight is all about you guys. So before we start, I want to encourage everyone to use the comment or use the chat to leave comments throughout the duration of the call. I'll be checking it. So make sure you guys ask any question. No question is a dumb question. So let's go ahead and transition into our first segment. So we are calling our first segment Hacked. What is Hacked? Again, you might ask. Great question. Hacked is an animated YouTube series from Sally Mae that helps students navigate the crazy world of student finances, which can be really difficult and tough sometimes. So we're going to break it down. And since going to college is expensive, we have a college guru here with us, a scholarship guru, whose name is Carlin Green. So everybody, can we welcome Carlin? Hey, Carlin. Can you unmute yourself? I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Hey, girl, hey.
Hey, can you see me as well?
I can see you as well. Thanks for joining us today. Do you mind giving everybody a quick introduction about yourself?
Yes, of course. So hi, my name is Carlin. I'm otherwise known as the Scholarship Guru. So over the years, I have personally won a lot of money in scholarships, 6 figures to be exact, between undergrad and graduate school, and have helped students since 2017 win millions and millions of dollars in scholarships across the globe. So not only limited to here in the US, but also in different nations, different countries. And I'm also the author of The Scholarship Algorithm, which details my techniques step by step to winning scholarships, because this is a very strategic process. It's a lot of competition, right? So definitely consider checking that out. And I am just so glad and happy to be here to talk to you guys about financial aid and scholarships.
I am happy to have you here. I'm hoping I can write down some tips so I can win thousands of dollars too. But since I'm not a student anymore, I guess we'll focus on the students today. So what we're going to do, Carlin, is we are going to watch 2 episodes of Sally Mae's Hacked, and then we're going to talk about it. So let's go ahead and start with episode 1.
On a mission to pay for college? Though a daunting journey it may seem, the rewards at the end are well worth the challenge. There are 3 trials you must pass. The first of which is filling out the FAFSA. To apply for student financial aid, you must first navigate through the FAFSA form. The questions may seem countless, but they determine how much aid you qualify for. So what's the catch? Student aid is on a first-come, first-served basis, and there's plenty of applicants. So you better hurry. Keep an eye on the opening date and file as soon as possible to increase your chances of getting aid. It's easy to get started. Most of these questions are a breeze to fill. Others are more difficult to answer. But whenever you're asked about different types of aid, such as work study, always answer yes. You can always change your answers And answering no could keep you from receiving aid you qualify for. Speed your way through intricate questions by bringing the right documents along with you. Each of these items will come in handy at some point. Filling out the FAFSA can be straightforward if you come prepared. Congratulations! You've hacked the FAFSA and acquired the maximum amount of aid you qualify for.
Super cool. I love those hacks videos because it makes me just remember being a kid and watching cartoons. But now, as you grow up, you have to start filling out things like the FAFSA. So I was wondering if we can start with breaking down the basics, and if you can let us know what the FAFSA is. And on top of it, is it a one-time application, or do students have to fill this out every year?
Yes, so well, with the FAFSA, which stands for the Free Application for Federal Student Aid, it's a form that helps determine if you're eligible for financial aid for your higher education. So if you think you'll need financial aid each year that you attend college, then yes, you are highly recommended to fill out the new form each year. And after all, your economic situation may differ from year to year, so this will affect the amount of aid that you are given. And as an example of this, I personally was eligible for the Pell Grant after filling out the FAFSA for my freshman year of college. But then the following year, my dad got a significant raise at his job. And because of that, I was no longer eligible for that grant. So guys, even if you are not eligible for the FAFSA or you didn't get enough money from it, it is still possible to apply and win scholarships, which of course we'll be talking about later today. So yes, that's a bit about the FAFSA.
Okay, really good to know. So when I was applying to mine, sometimes I didn't do the best job with applying on time. So when is the deadline for the FAFSA? Can you kind of break that down as well?
So the real hack here is knowing that every state and even every college have different deadlines. There is also a separate deadline at the federal/national level. So make sure that you individually pay attention to and keep track of these varying deadlines. And I would also recommend to mainly focus on your school's deadline or the various schools in which you are applying to. And also they may have separate due dates for a priority deadline versus regular deadline in terms of financial aid or even college admissions. And finally, if you can get your information in by the priority date, you may also be able to qualify for more aid from your school, such as in the form of scholarships.
Cool. Okay. So I know from personal experience when I applied, and when anybody applies, you might get back various different types of student financial aid that might be offered by your school. So how should a student respond to all the different types of offers that they receive?
Yes, well, first, let's break this down. Okay, so on your financial aid package offer, you may see scholarships such as from your school, federal grants such as the Pell Grant, grants from your state, work study, meaning the ability to work on campus and get paid, and finally, federal unsubsidized or subsidized loans. Now, I recommend that you go ahead and answer yes to everything. However, to wait a bit on those student loan offers, see if you are applying to, let's say, external scholarships and waiting on the results from those, and you end up winning enough to fund your education for that specific school year or over several school years, then you may just save up enough money to have your education paid off for, so you wouldn't really need to accept those loans and of course pay off their interest rates as well.
Okay, lots of great tips here. So again, dialing it back to when I was applying to my FAFSA, there's so much information they ask for, so many documents. So I'm wondering, for the students watching, what documents should they gather beforehand before they're filling out the FAFSA?
Yes, so as we saw earlier with the hacked video, the FAFSA requires information such as your social security number, banking statements, and so forth. However, it is also important to keep in mind that the FAFSA requires financial information from 2 years prior to the school year in which you will be enrolling for college. So since we are doing this College Con in the spring of 2023, if you were to enroll for fall 2023, it would require financial information like banking statements, W-2s, tax returns, and so forth from the year 2021.
Okay, that makes sense. Do you have any last tips for students watching about the FAFSA?
Yes, guys, I highly, highly recommend that you all make sure to have your passwords and usernames saved somewhere easily accessible when you create your account on studentaid.gov, which is where you will fill out the FAFSA. Because, see, I remember how every year my mom and I, we would forget and we would be locked out of the website. We would forget the username, the password, and all that. So please don't be like me. Stay organized and apply as soon as you can when it opens up.
Yes, same. I think I had a similar battle to face, so I definitely agree with that too. So, before we move on to the second video from Hacked, we actually have a surprise celebrity guest who sent us a video to watch. I'm going to go ahead and ruin the surprise for everybody and tell you guys it's Troy Baker. Okay, one of my favorite actors. So Troy had some epic scenes and did the voice of Joel in the HBO show The Last of Us, if you guys are familiar. And Sally Mae had the privilege to have him be the voice of the narrator and the professor in the Hacks video and series that we just watched. So let me play this video he sent us.
Hi, Dom. And man, do I wish that I could actually be there live with you as opposed to being in this rectangular thing. But I'm stuck in a hotel room. But I'm very glad that you guys let me be a part of this in any way. And for those of you who don't know, I'm Troy Baker, and I guess I kind of do sound like it. I got to be the narrator for the Hacked videos, and I also got to be the professor, which was also fun. Didn't expect that to happen, actually. It was a total goof. I didn't think they were going to let me keep that in, but here we are. Look, as an actor, you want a job. You know, you want someone to hire you, and when they do, that's a win. And if there's an opportunity for there to be some good that comes out of that, and for it to actually be something that is beneficial beyond just the purposes of entertainment, then that's like a yay. That's where the rainbow, points to at the end, being a pot of gold. Bad metaphor. The point is that if I can be a part of or contribute to something that's going to help people, and actually be a resource, then that to me is that's the ultimate. I love to just do things that make people smile and make people think or make people cry if you've watched The Last of Us. But I also do love to do things that are ultimately going to help people and maybe point them in the right direction. It was not only informational for the people that were intended to see this video, it was also very informational for me. One of the things that I learned is the proper pronunciation of FAFSA. See, I can say it just fine now. Before, nope, FAFSA, man, still, see, my brain fights it. FAFSA, did it, no problem. See, no problem. Recorded it perfectly every time. Not once, always had to redo it. If you know me at all, you know that I love games. I like a lot. And I love being in games, I love playing games, I love making games, all of it. So for me, this was like right at home. And I think that we are constantly gamifying everything in life. Like everything that we do has some kind of point system or reward system, or points out the fact that life is full of challenges and we inherently love to overcome obstacles. We either like to read about people doing that or we like to do it ourselves. And so for me, this made perfect sense, putting this into kind of like a video game construct, to kind of help make things smaller, because sometimes obstacles can feel too big. And when we break it down into, all right, here's the deal. This is a level, and there's going to be a boss battle at the end, and you're going to be able to overcome it, and then you're going to be able to level up. That makes sense to pretty much everybody, but especially to gamers. If I were to leave you with any words of wisdom, I would say this. The point of life is to find the obstacles, because then you get to find the solution to those problems. You get to find a way over those obstacles, and that's how we grow. So whether it be trying to find out how you're going to find the money to go to college or any other problem in life, understand that there is a solution. And sometimes it could be just like playing a game. I feel like I nailed this. What do you think, Dom? Pretty good? Thanks, guys.
Super good. Thank you to Troy for sending that video. And I would love if people in the chat could put some obstacles that they faced and how they found a solution to overcome it. And I challenge you guys for the next week to think about anything that you're battling, you're facing that's a challenge, how you can look at it as a solution and a learning opportunity. So I want to leave you guys with that. But let's get back to the scheduled programming and watch the next video of Hacked.
Your next trial awaits you. Don't settle for financial aid alone. Use your skills and interests to find the right scholarships for you. There are thousands of scholarships out there, but I'd wager there's some out there made just for you. Opportunities are everywhere. But be wary of passing deadlines on your journey. Forge your own way through the deadlines by making a schedule and sticking to it. Be on the lookout for local scholarships too. You see, local businesses and organizations often like to see their own emerge victorious. The Supreme Scholarship. Its value is high, but so is the competition. By collecting enough smaller scale scholarships, you can acquire the same amount of aid as that larger one. Congrats, player. You've hacked the scholarship search and built up the aid you require. Always remember, when it comes to searching for a scholarship, a little goes a long way.
Again, so much insights and advice in those videos, but I'm excited to hear from you personally. So I know you've won a ton of scholarships, but what has your experience been like winning these scholarships?
Yes, so I personally won 3 scholarships between undergrad and grad school, and about half I won as a high school student and the other half while in college. So guys, make sure to continue applying even if you are already in college. See, I've had current students win 10 scholarships, 20 scholarships. There was even a girl, she won 47 scholarships, and as a result, many of which are being able to graduate debt-free or have already graduated debt-free. So keep applying, and also understand that rejection is a part of the process. Even though I won 30, I applied to a little over 100 scholarships. See, a lot of times success is possible. Success is not possible without failure along the way. However, when you do fail, take the time to learn from your mistakes and how you can improve with making your application stronger and so forth. And of course, I personally help people one-on-one with that process.
Yeah, I definitely agree about failure. I look at it as rejection is redirection. So if you guys receive a no, it's gonna be okay. It happened for a reason. So that was really, really good advice. I love it. And I know too in the episode, they mentioned how local scholarships are better than nationally competitive ones. How has your experience been with that? Can you give us some insight on what that meant?
Yes. For me personally, most of the scholarships that I won were local to my state of Texas or a specific region in my state. So I'm based in the North Texas, Dallas area. And also many scholarships I won were specific to my study concentration slash major, as well as my demographic and so forth. However, I also did win some nationally competitive scholarships, but again, those tend to be way more competitive. So that shouldn't be your primary focus. Of course, you can still apply to them, but that shouldn't be your main focus unless you really have like really, really strong stats. And also, even if you do not excel academically or athletically, there are various scholarships out there, such as for those who have a pet, who have a special talent like duck calling, you name it. And I even personally give out a scholarship for students who in the past I gave out a scholarship for students who like anime and animation, and I even have a scholarship out now for those who currently have existing student loan debt. So guys, there's literally at least one scholarship opportunity out there for so many students. It's just like a matter of finding them and of course applying to them.
Yeah, great tips. And you mentioned too about stats. So would you say that it's more important to, with winning scholarships, to have really high achieving stats or have a really well written essay?
Yes, so I would say by far your essay is more important. See, many students may have strong stats such as a high class ranking, high GPA, test scores from the SAT, and so forth, but not many students know how to write and communicate overall effectively in a way that can convince people to give them free money. See, I literally had a student who was a valedictorian of his senior year of high school, and he wasn't offered any full ride scholarships. And you would think he would because he was first in his class, right? However, once he read my book, The Scholarship Algorithm, that I mentioned earlier, he was able to win $103,000 in scholarships during his sophomore year of college. So that just gives you guys. That gives you guys an example of why you can't just depend on your stats to get you the results that you want, and why I focus so much on strategy instead, such as even incorporating psychology to make an application stand out more.
Yeah, that's really great points. So, for the students who aren't as familiar with essay writing strategies or aren't the best writers per se, do you have any writing strategies you would recommend for students to use for their scholarship essays?
Yes, I have plenty, but of course, we're limited with this video. So I'll give you a few pointers here and there. So I constantly try to steer students away from writing the trauma essay, meaning the essay that talks about really sensitive topics relating to their private life. Although some students may have although some students have been able to successfully get into college or win scholarships using an essay like that, that is by far not the only way to win. And for context, the very first scholarship I won, I did the trauma writing, but then after that, I was not comfortable whatsoever with writing that same story over and over again, especially to people who didn't really even know me, right? So the other 29 scholarships I won, there's essays that were required. I talked about something else, and as an example of this, I expressed my past, current, and future impact, which shows your reader consistency and builds trust that you will continue to do great things even if you are awarded that particular scholarship. And I also showed my trials to triumphs, meaning overcoming a challenge that wasn't necessarily centered around trauma, and gave a moment of reflection on how I grew from that, which shows vulnerability and self-awareness. Self-awareness. Gosh, I keep stumbling over my words here. So yeah, there are so many ways to go about your writing, and also keep in mind that many people who judge these applications may get desensitized or even overwhelmed by trauma essays. It's kind of like how when you watch the news, when you watch world news and you see too many sad stories, it can make you just want to turn off the TV, right? Because you want to tune out all that negativity. So the same thing can happen for scholarships or even college admissions essays. And I've heard from many people who evaluate college admissions applications that they dread having to read back to back sad essays. So if you can instead be a breath of fresh air with your writing, definitely consider doing that.
Yeah, I wish I could ask you questions all day. Like you have so much knowledge on this. But I think because we're running out of time, the last question I'm going to leave you with is if there's anything else that you think students should think about when applying to scholarships.
Yes, so it is important that you make sure to use reputable, verifiable sources to find scholarships to apply for. And for example, Sally Mae has a fantastic scholarship search engine tool that I highly recommend that you start using if you're not already using it. And also, some scholarships may not be legitimate and some signs to look out for as far as scholarships that are not legitimate include a scholarship should never ask for your banking information during the application process, and this can also extend to, in most cases, not mentioning your social security number. They shouldn't really ask for that. And then finally, a scholarship should have some sort of contact information, whether that's in the form of their phone number and or preferably their email address.
Okay. we are all equipped and ready to go earn some free money. We have no excuse after Carlin's insights. So thank you for taking the time to share all your tips and tricks with us.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. You have a good day now. I'll see you later.
You too. Bye.
Awesome. So I believe after you learn anything, it's so important to review, to take notes, and to look back at what we learned, a little recap. So go ahead and grab your notebooks, your pen, or you Gen Zers, get out your laptops, your phones, and let's recap this segment. So first is that every state has different opening and closing dates for the FAFSA. I realized yesterday I pronounced it wrong too. So Troy is not alone. It's a really tough word to say, but you should find out which dates apply for your state. Also next is to consider local scholarships over nationally competitive ones. Like the video mentioned and Carlin mentioned, you might have more of a chance at getting lots of local scholarships instead of just the one big nationally competitive one. And then lastly, when it comes to winning scholarships, your essay will likely be more important than your stats. So really take a lot of time, think through your essays, have people check it for you, be meticulous about your essay process because it's not just about your stats. But with that, we're going to move on to our next segment. Awesome. So we're calling this segment Campus Underground. And that's because that is the name of the podcast that I had the privilege to host, as well as this one. So in that pod, I get to do a deep dive on college life and offer advice to students. So that's actually what we're going to do again today. And to help me out is my good friend and co-host of Campus Underground, Mr. Colby Martell. Hey, Colby.
Hello, Dom. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great.
Long time no see.
So I'll just share. Huh? A
Long time no
yeah.
see.
Sure. I'll start by sharing a little bit about myself. My name is Colby Martell. I'm a junior at Babson College, which is around the Boston area. And I'm very involved on campus. I'm the president of the activities board here. And then I'm also pretty involved off campus as well. I haven't been to as many colleges yet as Dom has, but I've been to about interviewing students to showcase their experiences and do some other fun stuff like some dorm tours and just try to get out of my comfort zone because my first year was pretty much just always in my dorm just watching YouTube. So I thought it'd be fun to go out and make my own videos and interact with other students that way. So I have a YouTube channel now as well.
And you're killing it. You're making lots
Thank
of
you.
amazing content. So kudos to
Thank
you
you.
for that. So I want to say really fast, before we dive into the segment, I want to mention that at the end of this segment, we're going to do Ask Me Anything coming up. So if you guys have any questions, please put in the chat. We're going to do a whole little section where we're going to address questions in the chat. And that could be about the scholarships or what we're going to talk about now.
Awesome. Sounds good. I actually forgot to mention one more thing about myself. I was also one of the hosts on the Campus Underground podcast last season, and I'm very excited for season 2. But I just had an idea, Dom, if you're interested, if we could do a mini pod right now and talk about some college stuff.
Yeah, let's do it. I would love to. I love podcasts.
Let's do
Awesome.
it.
So
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, last time we talked about a lot of stuff. We have 3 episodes out. We talked about managing money. We talked about how to make friends, how to balance social life and school. And then also we dived into a lot of the advice that we got and advice that we could give, as well as some bad advice that we did realize wasn't really the case. So I think today we could pick 3 of those topics maybe and do a little bit of a brief overview of those.
Yeah. Since we just talked about money, how about we do costs outside of tuition? We just talk about that.
Yeah, that'd be great. Let's do it.
Yeah. Do you want to start or do you want me to start?
Yeah, sure. I'll start. So obviously tuition, even though it's tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars, luckily if you listen to the last segment, maybe you can get some scholarships toward that. But there's also a ton of other things that you'll have to pay for as a student, whether it's room and board, whether it's food, whether it's just any other things you want to do with your friends, maybe during spring break, or textbooks. And throughout our time in college, we realized some ways to save money and also make money to contribute to those things. So maybe we could start with the textbooks first. Definitely look into renting your textbooks and not just buying them right away, because you'll get a syllabus probably in the summer and you'll see that you'll have to pay tuition and room and board and food, and then also probably hundreds of dollars more for books. And you're like, why do I have to do that? I'm already paying so much. But most of the times you don't have to pay as much as you think, because there's ways to rent it or borrow from friends, maybe if you're an upperclassman, or you could also just buy used books. Or sometimes, I've noticed, sometimes you don't even need to buy the textbooks. You can either find PDFs online, or even more commonly, they'll just be offered by the professor, or the professor will tell you that you don't actually need the book in the class. If you just wait till the first day of class to go over the syllabus, you probably don't need to prepare for that class, because it's just an overview of the class, and they'll tell you whether or not you need to buy the books. So probably just wait for that, and it saved me a lot of money, because I know my first year I bought a lot of books and never opened them. So that's my first tip.
I totally agree. I wasted a lot of money on books, like so much money that I wish I could get back. But I think to piggyback on what you said, a great tip that I got when I first got to campus was it's scary, but really important to make upperclassmen friends. And I know it can be intimidating going up to them and you just want to stay within your freshman bubble. But the more upperclassmen you meet, the more advice they can give you and the more textbooks you could potentially borrow. So I feel like that's another way that you can save money is by talking to upperclassmen and realizing that they're like you. They're just young adults trying to find their way. So that's definitely a great point with textbooks. But I think another thing is making a budget for yourself. You're not at home anymore. Your parents aren't giving you money to go get ice cream. You have to figure it out yourself for the first time. So being organized, writing down what you're spending money on, and realizing that this is the first time that you're probably going to be on a campus with people who aren't from your hometown. People are coming from different states, from different cities, from different countries. So they're going to have different customs and ways of life and different socioeconomics. So you might think that you can keep up with the Joneses and you think that your friends are spending $100 on a party and you might not have $100 to spend. So keep your head straight on the game. Remember who you are. Remember what your finances look like and try not to compare yourself to others.
Totally agree. And then also on the other side of that, you can also look for a ton of on-campus opportunities to make some money and cover those expenses that you want. I know one thing I make sure to do is not order Uber Eats a lot, because it is very expensive for delivery, and with all the opportunities on campus to get free food, which we can talk about after this. But I think that there are some opportunities where I do want to get off campus and spend time with my friends and have those fun experiences that do cost a little bit of money. So to do that, you might want to look into some on-campus jobs that tend to be very easy. Like there's jobs here that people can just do their homework by having a shift in the library or in the gym for a few hours a week and just get $15 an hour. So all money is good money as a college student. So definitely look into those opportunities, because there's a lot of them on campus.
Yeah, definitely. And I think too, with the free food that you mentioned, my campus, we had a group chat for free food. And whenever there was somebody giving away food or a professor or whatnot, an event, they would take a picture and stick it in the chat and everybody would scurry over and try to get the free food before it's gone. So if your campus doesn't have one of those, you could be that special person that makes it. So I definitely think that's like a cool way to bond with people over being frugal and wanting to save money. But also I had friends that would make it weeks without paying for food because they were just getting free food left and right. So that's definitely something to explore.
Definitely. There's so many clubs on my campus that will cater food. So even if I have a meal plan, and I try to prioritize that because that's what I'm paying for, it's constant meals 3 times a day. So that's what I go to rather than eating out. But sometimes you want something different. So look for those clubs hosting events as well.
Definitely. You want to move on to the next topic?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's talk about preparing for the future, and specifically the saying that when one chapter closes, another one opens. Do you think you can kind of give us your rendition, your thoughts on what that quote means to you?
Yeah, definitely. That quote means a lot to me personally, because as many high school students are, they get pretty sad when they have to leave, or maybe some people look forward to leaving their high school and moving on to the new chapter. But either way, the chapter is going to close and it's going to be much different, but also much similar. It's just the same book of your life, but just a new phase of it. So you'll move on from a lot of your relationships, but you may want to also keep some of them. So one of the cool things I noticed in my first year, you quickly realize which friends are going to be lifelong friends and which friends are going to be just high school friends, but you can appreciate them both the same. I look back into just reflecting on my high school friends, and I'm still super appreciative of them in my life. I still follow them on Instagram and see what they're up to, maybe occasionally reach out, but just realizing that you're not going to be super close with them, with all of them still. You're going to meet new people and make new relationships, but then still hold some of them the same. So just as that chapter does close, make sure you spend a lot of time with the people that you care about, because you won't see them as much in college, even though you can keep touch over FaceTime or something like that.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think too, when you're applying to scholarships, when you're applying to colleges, you are so heads down and so focused that you might forget that the chapter's coming to a close soon. So it's really important, especially after you get that acceptance to your dream college, we're going to manifest, that you spend time with your friends and your family, because this is the last time that you will probably be home with your parents and your little siblings. So I think taking them all, not taking them for granted, is really important. And even though you want to run, you have senioritis, you want to be an adult, like really value those last moments at home. But on top of that, I wanted to say too, with preparing for the future, is familiarizing yourself with your campus, that you might be going from a small town to a really big city and not know the city you're about to move to or the country. So getting to know the area, getting to know where's safe, where might not be as safe, where you could get groceries, all that fun stuff will really help you with prepping and staying organized with preparing for that transition into young adulthood and into being by yourself for the first time.
Yeah, I totally agree. And then on top of that, also make sure that you have everything that you need on campus to succeed. Maybe you don't take everything from your house, but making a checklist is very important for me, at least, to make sure that I have everything that I want when I leave. Luckily, I'm lucky enough to live pretty close to campus, so if I did forget something, then I could easily go back home. But there's a lot of people living a 30-hour plane ride away, so you definitely have to make sure that you have that checklist and bring everything that you need.
Definitely. Well, let's move on to our last segment then, which is about mental health.
Awesome.
So do you have any tips or what you do currently, since you're still in college, for what you do to maintain a healthy mental health?
Yeah, when you get super busy in college, you have a lot of pressure, maybe from parents or yourself or your school, or you're worried about the future and you want to maintain a high GPA, but you also want to get involved with fun stuff and activities on campus. It can get overwhelming if you overcommit. So, my biggest thing is, as a first year, you definitely want to try new things. You definitely want to figure out where you're going to fit in. So I would definitely start off by joining every email list, almost anything that slightly interests you, any person that slightly interests you, reach out to them. But definitely don't overcommit at the same time. You don't want to have everyone on your campus be your close friend, because that's not sustainable to have healthy relationships with all those people. Same with clubs. You don't want to join 20 clubs and not be able to give your best effort into each of those. There's some people I know that are on like 4 different executive boards for clubs and just aren't able to commit to them. So it's much better if you're just focused on 1 or 2 that you're really passionate about by the time you get to maybe sophomore or junior year. But as a first year, definitely try to experiment. Just get on the email list and visit a couple of events, a couple of meetings, and then find out what you're interested in. But at that point, realize what you can sustain and what you can do while maintaining a healthy lifestyle. So definitely, number 1, do not overcommit, but do try a lot of things.
Yeah, I
Do you
think
have
in
any
high
other
school,
advice?
yeah, I think to jump on what you said and then to add some additional advice is in high school, you are trying to impress colleges. And I do think in college, you're trying to impress potential employers and jobs. But in high school, your resume sometimes is so vast because you want to just make it look so nice and fluffy when you apply to colleges. But the cool thing is in college, you can start to specialize in things. You can start to do less things and do more things that you're really, really into instead of a ton of little things that you like, kind of like, which is special. So I agree with the don't overcommit and look at it as like the now you have the capacity and the time to be able to focus on what you actually want to do. But I think too, I'm a huge reward system type of girl. So after a long day of studying or a long day of whatever is exhausting me, I will give myself something fun to look forward to at the end of the day. And that really helps my mental health. So whether that's I'm going to sing for an hour, I'm going to go skateboard around the park, I'm going to eat a whole pint of ice cream because my mom and dad aren't here to tell me I can't, then that's what I'm going to do for my reward after doing something difficult. So I think that too is something to keep your mental health in check. But do you have any last ones you would like to add?
Yeah, sure. So, while you don't want to overcommit to anything, there's some things that you should definitely commit to. And one of them is definitely sleep. You definitely need to get an adequate, consistent sleep schedule. It's something I sometimes struggle with. One of my most popular videos on YouTube is asking students if they ever sleep and if they ever study. And it varies a lot person to person. But at least from my experience, the only time I've ever struggled with exams is when I don't get enough sleep. So you just have to realize that you got to study in advance. You don't want to cram. You need to get that sleep before, and you're going to enter the test remembering everything you learned in class as long as you prepare in advance and not just
Yeah,
stay up all night studying. And that just
I have a
works
really
every day. Like there's so many times that I don't participate in class because I didn't get enough sleep, and I just really regret it because it's so important to participate in class, just for your mental health
yeah.
as well.
Yeah, I so agree. And I have a funny story that I'm gonna throw in really fast. Is I pulled an all-nighter for an exam and I was studying, I was cramming like crazy. And I got to the exam. I thought I killed it. I left. I called my dad. I was like, I got 100. And then I got the grade back and I got like a 33, I think it was. And I think it's because I didn't sleep. So you can think that you're doing well without sleeping, and you'll find out you probably aren't. So I totally agree to sleep 8 hours if possible. Yeah, great tip to add in. But I'm going to jump over to the chat to see if anybody left some questions for us. So, one, Colby's for you. Colby, how do you have the time to make your videos and get all your coursework done?
That is a great question. I was very consistent last semester. Unfortunately, I have fell a little bit behind on my YouTube this semester because I've been prioritizing school, and it's important to recognize that I'm only going to be a student for one more year, and I can make videos the rest of my life. But I'm passionate about succeeding in both, so it is difficult to balance. But I think if you care enough about your school and you care enough about YouTube, as long as you don't overcommit on a ton of other activities, it's easy to just plan a calendar and commit time to sometime to studying, sometime to editing videos. And then when you get to a point, you can even have help with your YouTube videos. You can hire an editor, which I'm looking into right now to help me be more sustainable. So that's what I'm doing
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah, I think to add to that is in college you really learn how to prioritize and how things that you thought was important in the past actually isn't that important, or you don't have the time for it. So you got to unfortunately cut some things out to get what you want to do done. So I definitely agree with what you said with somebody that also filmed videos, that you have to you have to prioritize school and then first, at least in my opinion, and then whatever after that you enjoy in order to be able to do everything. So we are
I
actually
agree.
going to keep moving, Colby. So I want to
Okay.
thank you for all of your insights, for joining me in the first podcast and then this mini one now. Do you have any last things you want to say?
No, this has been great. Thank you so much. And if you have any more questions for me, feel free to leave a comment on my YouTube channel or DM me on Instagram, and I'll try to reach out to you.
Awesome. Thank you,
Thank you
Colby.
so much. Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. So again, let's review what we've learned in our Hey Sally recap. So the costs outside of tuition, which was the first topic we talked about, is to create a budget for yourself, spend responsibly, and look for ways to make money. Money does not grow on trees, only in video games. So when you get to college, you really have to be careful and be smart when it comes to money. Next, with preparing for the future, we talked about staying organized, creating checklists, try to do as much prep as you can before you get to campus. Really find out which areas are safe, which areas are not. You don't want to end up in the wrong part of town, but then also creating checklists to make sure you bring what you need to bring to campus and that you are prepared for class. You're prepared for this new chapter of your life. And then the last segment we talked about, which is what we're going to actually talk about next in more detail, is mental health. So trying not to overcommit, sleeping, exercising, taking care of your body, and then finding things that bring you joy and reward you. So with that, we're going to transition into one of my favorite segments of .edu. Awesome. So welcome to Sound Mind. I'm so excited for this segment because we get to spend time focusing on the vital importance of mental health. I grew up with a mom who is a therapist, so mental health was very important in our household. Hey, Mom, I know you're watching. I love you. But I'm even more excited because we get to learn about it from one of my favorite TikTokers who happens to be a licensed therapist as well. Please help me in welcoming Lindsay Fleming. Hi, Lindsay.
Hi, Dom. I'm so
How are
excited to
you?
be here. I'm
Excited to have
good, and I
you.
love that your mom is a therapist.
Yes, the therapist bond. Feel free to introduce yourself to everybody.
Yeah, so like Dom said, I'm a licensed therapist. I started on TikTok during the pandemic, and one of my TikToks just blew up, and I started to really try to use that for positive change, and I started creating mental health content. And I own my own private practice, so I see a lot of college age students. So please put in the chat any questions you have for me. This can be the most helpful for you if I know what you need. So go ahead and make sure you're filling in that chat with questions.
Awesome. And then we also have the wonderful Jorge Alvarez here with us as well. Hello, Jorge.
Yes, hello. How is everyone doing? I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, doing well. Excited to have you. Please
Doing
feel
well.
free to introduce yourself as well.
Absolutely. So, hi, everyone. I'm really excited to be here because when I was in undergrad, I wish I had someone who looked like me talking to me about a subject like mental health, since growing up, it was something that wasn't really discussed. So, I'm a first generation college grad from Rutgers University. And I, while in undergrad, struggled a lot in my first year. What I thought was overwhelm, what I thought was stress, ended up being depression, anxiety. But luckily, I was able to find help. And since identifying ways to get help, I was able to realize that this was a conversation that we needed to have at an earlier point, and I needed to have at an earlier point. And so I started advocating for mental health on my campus, took that to TikTok in April of 2021. And since then, like sharing my voice on a platform like TikTok has led to me speaking at the White House, speaking in LA next month, and also having the opportunity to do incredible work as an activist and social impact strategist with MTV and Active Minds, which is a really large mental health nonprofit. And so to have this space with all of you is a privilege, and I'm so happy to chat with Lindsay and Dom and everyone.
Yes, we are happy to have you here. And learning about mental health is so important that I think I'm going to let the experts take it away from here. So I'm actually going to go get my own notebook and take some notes. So you guys got it from here. I'm excited to listen.
Thanks, Dom. Yeah, so today Jorge and I are going to talk about what mental health is, how to foster positive mental health throughout college, and what you can do if you start to feel like your mental health is struggling. So jumping right into that first topic, if you guys want to put in the chat just what comes to mind when you hear the word mental health as we start to break down what that means to us. I can start with, I think oftentimes people think of mental health as either someone has a mental health condition or they don't. But the truth is, we all have mental health and we can all benefit from bettering our mental health. And really, what it is it's our emotional, psychological, and social well being. It impacts the way we think, the way we feel, and the way we act, which results in how we tend to handle stress and relate to others and make choices. Do you have anything to add to that mental health definition, or how would you define mental health?
Oh, of course I do. So for me, I just need to emphasize that mental health is health, right? Mental health is far more than just its own isolated thing. And I think that that's oftentimes a mistake that I made and a lot of folks make. So when I started undergrad, again, not really having understood emotional well-being or mental health, I didn't really pay attention to what I was feeling internally. I was just focused on the physical feelings. And so for me, it's important to make sure that when I talk about mental health, I expand your definition of what mental health is as your diet, as the amount of sleep you get, as your friendships and how much time you spend with friends. And it's an accumulation of all those different factors that ultimately impact how you feel. And so I just wanted to make sure that I also touched on all those different aspects that ultimately contribute to what our mental health is.
Yes. And I'm just going to jump on that and share what I often hear from my clients as those physical symptoms that they say, oh, it's fine, it'll go away in a while, right? So headaches, stomach aches, muscle tension, heart racing, feeling restless, feeling drained, not wanting hanging out with our friends and maybe not wanting to be there, or feeling good while we're there, then we get home and we're tired and not feeling good. So there's a lot of physical symptoms that can stem from our mental health. And that's usually what my clients first come in complaining about, is those physical symptoms. And they've usually been experiencing them for a very long time. And we talk a lot about stigma and how that's a barrier and lack of understanding of what mental health is. And I know you've spoken a lot about stigma. So I'd love for you to share just how did you get to the point where you came to an understanding that what was going on with you was mental health related?
Definitely. So like I said earlier, I'm Puerto Rican and Cuban to be particular, so I'm Latino, and talking about mental health in my household was virtually non-existent. So that definition of mental health I had to grow and create myself and understand myself. And when it came to identifying what feelings were stemming from something deeper than just stress because of an exam, that really did take some time. But I think what really helped was recognizing that there's always more that we can dig into within ourselves, and there's always resources that we can utilize to further understand those feelings. So I did see that one of you asked the question, can you get therapy at your university? And absolutely, that's how I was able to identify that I was experiencing anxiety and depression and put a label to those feelings. I found my campus counseling center. I went to them and I said, hey, I would love to schedule a session. Took some time, I will be honest, but once I got that session, which by the way didn't require I show insurance, my parents didn't need to know, which is the fantastic part about therapy in college, I was able to start and recognize, like you said, Lindsay, that all these feelings of just feeling tired all day was not just, oh, because I didn't sleep. It was also because I was mentally drained and I was anxious, and that was taking energy out of me. So I hope that that helps some of you recognize, again, what feelings might be attached and what experiences might be attached to your mental health, and definitely look into your campus counseling center as a resource.
Yes. And I want to point out too that, again, I think we have this idea of we have to be struggling to a certain point to reach out for help. And anytime is a good time to start working on your mental health. And going off the Dom's story of not getting enough sleep and not thinking she did really well in an exam and turns out that she didn't, I can share a personal experience of when I was in graduate school. I had procrastinated a paper and ended up having to pull an all-nighter to finish the paper. And my boyfriend at the time, being so nice, brought me dinner, and there were mushrooms on top of my chicken fried rice that he brought me, and I hate mushrooms. And I started crying. He was like, why are you crying over mushrooms? And I was like, because you know I hate mushrooms and you brought this here. Now I can't eat my dinner. Now, do I normally cry over mushrooms? Absolutely not. But I was stressed. I had all this stuff going on. If I had good coping skills, if I had self-awareness, I probably would have been like, you know what, Danny, today I just need to cry over mushrooms. But instead, I ignored him all night. And so I just added to my stress because now I'm in a fight with my boyfriend. So over mushrooms. So I think really identifying that those spaces in colleges, they're not just for when you're in that crisis point. They're for any time that you just feel like you can gain some skills as well.
Definitely, I agree. There's also a really great question, Lindsay, if it's not too early to bring up, on the topic of building coping skills. And as I mentioned, I found help through my campus counseling center. How do you find a therapist that's right for you?
Oh, that's such a good question. My usual go-to is based because I like to say, and I think you spoke to this too before when we were talking about just going off about mental health for such a long time. It is kind of, I think you said it best, like speed dating. I think I use it as the sense of like dating apps where it's like you might get some people get lucky on the first time and some people you got to kiss a lot of frogs before you find the prince. So I really like
That's
to
a new one.
I really like to utilize referrals. So if you know someone who has a really good therapist that they feel like is helpful, ask them if they know of someone who they refer to. I think that is the best way, but I know that also sometimes we don't feel comfortable doing that, and that's okay, or we don't know someone who is receiving services. So in that case, I would definitely say, like, you can schedule an intake session and we're here for you. I know I'm not everybody's jam. I have a lot of energy. Some people are like, you're too much, and that's okay. I'm not made for everyone. So really, you utilize that intake session to figure out, is this a good fit for me? Ask them, what does therapy look like with you? Are you someone who wants really concrete skills? Do you want more processing and listening? So ask yourself, what do I want out of this? And then see if that therapist, you feel safe, you feel connected, and is giving you that.
Absolutely. And I can second that. I also use the metaphor sometimes that finding a therapist is like finding that right pair of jeans. Because, I mean, we all know the struggle of finding that right pair of jeans. But I'll tell you that I had the opportunity to see 2 therapists while I was an undergrad, and both of them helped me in a lot of different ways. So that's definitely a topic I can always get into.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on to fostering positive mental health throughout college, I think we've started to stem on some of that. But I just wanted to note that while we were talking about this, you guys, we were just talking about a lot about mental health and what it is. Now we're going to get into some ways that you can foster that positive mental health. Feel free to put in the chat things that you do that make you feel good. What are you already doing that helps your mental health? I work with a lot of college students, and I noticed that they have packing lists. They spend hours looking for that perfect roommate. They are picking out their clothes, they're buying apparel, but I never hear them have a checklist of, how do I make myself emotionally ready to this change? What's going to be different for me? And how can I be ready to cope with that? And I wanted to let people know that nearly 1/3 of students who drop out of college said that mental health issues were contributing factor. And that's from Sally Mae's How America Completes College study. So I would just really encourage people to think about the changes in, you're not around your support system sometimes, your schedule looks different, there's a lot less oversight and a lot more ability to go out and do maybe some things that aren't so good for our mental health all the time. We need balance, right? So do you have anything to add for that? Like maybe some people's checklists or what you wish you would have thought about before starting your college experience?
Definitely. So there were some things mentioned earlier. I think first and foremost, it's identifying community, right? What does community look like for you? That's the most powerful thing for me. So what are extracurriculars you can get involved in, clubs you can explore? Who can you start to turn to have that honest conversation? I think now the conversation around mental health is growing more and more normalized. And of course, there's work to be done, and we're part of that work in the sense that we can all check in with a friend and ask each other how we're doing. And that is incredibly powerful. I'm sure everyone can relate to that. So start to identify, who can you turn to? Who are those high school friends you can call? And what helped me was also identifying academic resources on campus. And again, where my CAPS center was on campus, and remembering that it was okay to go at any point. I didn't need to be in crisis, which is oftentimes an idea a lot of us have. I can just be stressed about an exam and go to that counseling center, and it's really not that hard to find. I saw someone ask also like how to start that discussion. I would say honestly, just ask someone, hey, like, where can I get help for my mental health? Asking that straightforward, people and employees at your university will definitely help you out and point you towards the right direction.
Yes, definitely. I love that you said community building. I often have when we are in a good place, that's the best time to make a plan for when we're struggling, because when we're struggling, it's hard to function, let alone ask people, be like, what can I do to help myself? So definitely creating a plan. Who is your support system? Things like that. And that leads right into what to do when our mental health starts to struggle. So
Yes.
if you guys want to add in that some ways that you kind of know, oops, I need to pay attention to my mental health a little bit. And what I will say is what I make my clients do is I'm all about prevention work. How can we keep our mental health going, feeling good?
Yes.
And so what I have my clients do is in their phone notes, because everybody always has their phone on them, I have them do prevention work.
Yes.
What are they doing that's making them stay in that positive mental health space? Taking walks, making sure that they're going to class, making sure they're going to the library once a week, whatever that is. The next thing is, what are their warning signs that maybe my mental health is struggling a little bit, and what they can do about it. And then the third one is, okay, when I feel like I'm stuck, who can I go to for support and how? Because having a list of people is really great, but I find that people are like, well, I don't know what to say, or well, I don't want to burden them. And so really having the language ready for yourself. I know we've talked about making sure you go to these places when you are in your first day on college campus and just getting familiar with them. Do you have anything to add maybe that people can put in this list?
Definitely. For me, one thing I neglected and is a must, schedule you time. Schedule you time on your same Google Calendar that we've all mentioned to, manage your courses and deadlines for the FAFSA. I hope I said that right. Also, schedule you time. Schedule time to just have fun. Your Friday night, schedule that time for you and no one else. And if that's time with friends, fantastic, but just make sure that you proactively do that, because that's equally as important to filling your cup before you could pour into any other cups like school, extracurriculars, etc. Also, again, for me, it was really making sure that I was building those tools. So when I started undergrad, meditation was super novel to me. And I had these pictures in my head of what meditation looked like, but I've been meditating since my first year of undergrad, and identifying other coping mechanisms has been so helpful. So those two things I really want to point out.
Yeah, and that's someone asked in the chat, like, how can students best prioritize mental health if they have no extra time, in their day? And I think, that's a bigger question to ask yourself. How many classes are like, what is your schedule look like?
Yeah.
But I will say taking small moments, like in the morning, doing a 5-minute meditation or gratitude, taking deep breaths while you're walking to class. What type of music are you listening to? Is it bringing you upbeat? What are we doing while we do have that free time? Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, for me in undergrad, I found myself always being that student who had no time, because I was that person who threw myself in 20 different extracurriculars, and was also balancing my pre-med courses in addition to public health courses. So I resonate with this experience. And for me, again, what helped were those grounding things that I stuck to. It doesn't need to be every day, right? I think a lot of times we feel pressure that we need to have the same morning routine every day. But squeezing in, your favorite, like meditation while you're on the bus to another class, or making sure that you're eating food that energizes you, things like that were really, really important for me that I underestimated. So those are things that I would do, and you'll realize that if you can nurture yourself and try to have more of a clear mind, you can also continue to make more space for yourself. And that for me really helped me do better in my classes. So if you don't have any time like I did, I would say try your best to make time for yourself and for your mental health, because that'll only return in a compound with compound interest by the time you graduate. Definitely.
That's really good. And I think we've been taught at a young age, right? We get rewarded for doing extracurricular activities and being a straight A student more than we get rewarded for balance and prioritizing our mental health. We tell adults, don't bring work home with you, but yet we give kids homework starting really young. So I think learning this balance at a young age can be really helpful, and recognizing that your accomplishments do not equal your worth. I know that
Say that louder.
was really, really stressed and doing a million things, but then someone would be like, how do you do it all? And I'm like, yep, how do I do it all? Well, I'm not. I'm crying over mushrooms, right? So I think it's, again, that idea of asking yourself, what do I need? and how can I get that? Someone else asked, what should you do if you're having trouble finding your community at the college you end up at? And I know this is something a lot of my clients struggle with. Yeah, you too? Then why don't you start us off?
Oh, I
Take it
feel
away.
that so hard. Yeah, so when I started undergrad, I really struggled to find my community because, again, I mentioned that I experienced depression early on, so that prevented me from doing any outreach and going to any clubs. But once I started to get the help that I needed, for me, it was really identifying like what those smaller interests were, and it was trying to find ways to show up and take the pressure and expectation off myself that I needed to leave that with a friend, or I needed to leave that as part of this club. But just showing up, that in and of itself, signing up for a newsletter even, is a really small step that I took to eventually find a club that I really resonated with. And from a cultural standpoint, I really struggled also to fit in undergrad and to feel like I belonged. And that also played into my mental health, which is why I value community so much. But there's cultural centers on campus that are so incredibly awesome. They run events all the time. There's also clubs that host out of there. There's socials, and there tends to be a lot of free food at those events, just an FYI. So those are another great opportunity if you're feeling that way, to just show up again and be in that space, and someone will come up to you. Maybe you can challenge yourself to talk to just one person. But that's what comes to mind for me, because I was there my entire first year, and it wasn't until my second year that I found a club and I finally found community midway through my second year. So I understand.
So that's also for people on here, stick it out and keep trying and pushing yourself, and you will get there. I think it is really hard when we struggle in the beginning of the year, because especially your freshman year, that is when it's like kindergarten, right? You're making friends all over again, and everyone's like, oh, do you want to go to lunch here? Do you want to go to dinner? So that's a good place to set yourself up by pushing yourself in those moments. However, if that is just not your jam, or that's too hard, that's okay. And I really encourage you, there's like usually peer mentorships, cultural centers, like the counseling centers. There's a lot of systems in place to try to help students specifically with that. So it's really about reaching out to those resources and asking your school, hey, this is what I'm struggling with. How can you help me? Just like we would if we were struggling in biology, we would get a tutor and be like, hey, can you help me get more prepared for my courses, feel more confident about this? We can do that with social skills as well. Okay.
Definitely.
I think that's all we have time for. Any last thoughts that you want to share?
No, really. I just want to remind you that I know sometimes there's pressure that college is going to be the top of your life. And I know that it's important to remember that challenges are okay. It's okay to not be okay. I know it might sound cliche, but truly remember that, and remember that you're not alone, and that you're going to find ways to find that community, to have fun, to learn, to grow. And you're going to thrive at the end of the day. And you're going to walk across that stage with a degree in your hand, and you're going to be like, wow, I did that, and I prioritized myself, or I tried my best to. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And always feel free to reach out to me on socials as well. It's and then my first and last name, as you see here. How about you, Lindsay?
Yeah, I mean, now you just sparked a thought that I had, which was, I remember that I was reading research that they did, that they asked college students while they were in college their stress levels and their anxiety levels. And then they asked them again, like 20 years later. So everybody always says college are the best years of your life. And then you get there and you're like, oh, I better make this count. These are the best years of my life. My life's over after this.
Yeah, exactly.
It was, the answers were so different. Same person. But they reported feeling way more stressed and anxious while they were in college than when 10, 20 years later, when they're looking back at college, they're saying, oh, I wasn't stressed. Oh, I wasn't anxious. Those were the best years of my life. So we tend to look back at it with rose-colored glasses a lot of times too. So I love that you had said that. I think that's great. And I just want to invite Dom back in here.
Hey guys, you guys had so many great tips, so many. I was literally writing so many things down, but I want to ask too, because you just brought up stress level. Adi asked in the chat, how many colleges should you actually apply to? So I'm curious, with applying, I know it can be really stressful as a high school student, especially when you don't know how many to apply to and you don't know which ones you're going to get accepted to. So I want to throw that question in you guys' ballpark. If you can answer first how many you think you should apply to and what your application process look like, but then on top of it, how to deal with the stress of those applications.
Definitely. I can jump in on this one. So, for me, I was really grateful to learn that there are waivers to help with the application fee, which I needed because I'm, again, first gen, come from a lower income household. So, definitely look into those if you haven't already. And once I did, that honestly took a lot of stress away from applying because that was one of the biggest things that was on my mind when I was starting that process. And once I had those waivers, I honestly, for me, aimed to do, I didn't really have a number in mind, but I just aimed to do a good amount both in state and out of state so that I had options when it came to tuition and financial aid packages to review, what was the best, both based off of program and then also based off of finances at the time.
Yeah. I'm going to give a really annoying answer. It varies, which is like the worst thing you want to hear, right? But what I would like to say as far as boundaries around it is I usually say we want to do one school that we kind of know we meet the criteria for. We want to do one school where you're like, for sure, I can get into this school. One school where we're like, okay, I think I'm pretty good here. And one school that's like a reach school. So I like to give those options because we don't want to just go all reach schools. And then we're like, I'm so stressed. What if I don't get in? So making sure that we're balanced. And I love what you said, making sure we're also balanced with in-state versus out-of-state and being thoughtful about, do you want small, big? Like start to ask yourselves, what do you want out of your school?
Yeah. And I could add to that and say that one thing that doesn't really get spoke about too much is that with all your applications, you have to pay. Well, not all, but a lot of them, you do have to pay an application fee.
Yeah.
So I think that ends up kind of limiting how many you can apply to because you might not be able to afford all that you want to. I applied to a lot. I applied to 13 schools, but I think everybody's different. Like Lindsay said, it's just, it depends. It varies. So I don't think you should look at somebody else and be like, oh, well, they did that, so I should do that. Because that's not how it works. So I like all the stuff you guys mentioned is perfect to answer Adi's question. So thank you for taking the time for that. And thank you guys for joining me today and sharing all of your insights in the Sound Mind segment of this talk.
Thank you, Dom.
Thank you.
Of course. Well, I hope I see you guys soon. Awesome. So we're going to recap yet again. So, hey, Sally, let's see what you have written down for a recap. So what we learned about maintaining a good mental health. Always, it's better for handling stress, relationships, and decision making. Next is to seek a community and build a support system early on if possible. Community is so important in college. It can feel really lonely sometimes. So I really, really agree with that one. And then identify and proactively use the mental health resources at your college. You are paying a lot of money to be at these campuses, like we mentioned in the first segment. So you might as well use the resources. And it's just going to make you a better person and a better student, which is what your job is in college, is to be a student. It's to go to class. So if anything's holding you back from that, you should use your resources to figure out how you can overcome that hump. And like Troy mentioned at the very beginning, looking for solutions. And mental health is definitely a solution to a lot of stress, keeping your mental health in check. So that concludes this segment. And we're actually going to move on to our last segment. Sad. We're almost done, guys. So one way that I am able to stay calm and keep my mental health in check is actually music. I grew up with a dad who was a musician. I'd follow him on tours. I would sell his CDs on his tours. My brother is also a musician. So I just was always surrounded by music in the household. So for me now, to keep my mental health in check, I'll go sing for hours in the shower or in annoying my roommate, or just listen to music. So music is my therapy. So I thought it'd be cool for our final segment to have one of my favorite and maybe one of your favorite after this call musicians and band come and perform for us. So ladies and gentlemen, Toledo.
Hello. Hey. What's up?
Hey.
Can you hear us now?
I can hear you. Yes.
Loud and clear.
Hey,
good.
Loud and clear. Actually, I have to say really fast, we found out yesterday that we are neighbors. So we
Like,
actually live.
not just neighbors. We live across the street from each other. Like, I can see your building.
It's wild.
It's pretty
I can
crazy.
hear
It's
you
small.
talking from here.
Man. So yes, I just had I have to throw that out. But nice to have you guys here and see you both again. So feel free to please introduce yourself to everybody. So yeah, go ahead and introduce.
I'm Dan. I'm one half of Toledo.
I'm Jordan. I'm the better half of Toledo.
That's what I meant.
Yeah. And we do music.
For a living.
Yes.
Yeah. Barely.
So what type of genre of music do you guys like to make?
We mostly work on guitars and do, like, I guess you'd call it indie rock music. But, and not to segue for you, but we have experimented in the lo-fi beats genre as well.
Oh yeah, we've done it all. But Toledo in itself is kind of like a folky indie rock project that we've got going on, but we don't shy away from any genre. We love making pop music. We love making country, some hip hop stuff, and obviously some lo-fi beats to study to.
Yes. Wow. That's a lot of stuff, guys. It's really impressive. So with lo-fi, I've heard that it's scientifically proven to have benefits. Do you guys happen to have any details on like what those benefits are and why there's benefits from lo-fi?
Well, I'm not a scientist, but I think that probably the repetitive quality to lo-fi music and the inclusion of some of the ASMR elements like rain or street noise and stuff just helps you get into this meditative state where you can kind of zen out and just the outside noise of your day and the stresses of being a college student or whatever kind of melts away and you can focus just on what you need to be productive.
I always kind of reference that graphic of everyone knows the graphic of the lo-fi person sitting at their computer with the cat and with the big headphones on and the rain in the background.
You know, she got a friend today.
No way.
It's so that's lo-fi girl and now she has a friend that's like synthwave boy. I think they just announced that today, so it's a big day for.
It's a big day for lo-fi beats to study to.
Yeah.
But that kind of example is great because I mean you can see it in the background of her videos and things like that. I don't know if she's a real person, but maybe it's Sally Mae in secret. Who knows?
Yeah.
But you can see in the videos in the background that all the rain happening, the natural noise, and those kind of the natural atmosphere around her when she's studying. And I think that's a really important thing. I know when I was going to school and applying to colleges and writing like my college essay, there was a lot of times where I had to listen to like instrumental lo-fi beats for me to be able to get into it. So I feel like everything is kind of connected in that way, which is really cool.
No, that's super cool. And I think it's the same for me. Lo-fi was the homework, the studying, like any type of music. If I hear it, sometimes I'm just like, oh, I need to like put my head down and start studying. It just triggers it. So I definitely agree. It helped me through college. And I'm excited because I know that there's an album on the way that you guys participated in called Sound Mind, which was releasing soon, if I'm correct. Can you guys tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, we did some. We got hit up to make some beats with a couple friends of ours, other awesome musicians, Jay Som, and a bunch of others, Isaac Dunbar, I believe. And we got hit up to make a couple beats for Sally Mae, and it was kind of fun for us to dive into that. And you know what? I know it's not released yet, or there's a release date, but I could show you guys a little sample if you want.
I would love that.
Let's
Would
do it.
you?
Why not?
Yeah, we can talk a little bit about
Yeah.
the
Can you pull it up?
let's
Oh,
see
wow.
how it works.
Okay.
Did you hear any?
Yes, I heard it all.
Okay, cool.
So good. Wait,
Thank
can
you.
you tell me about the process of building lo-fi beats? Like, where do you
Yeah,
start?
for sure. I think it's not that different from how we would start writing a normal Toledo song in the sense that, we're like, okay, a lo-fi beat's come, we're gonna make a lo-fi beat. And then it's like, what's my reference for that? For me, for this track, it was like kind of the music that's in some types of anime, like Samurai Champloo and stuff. Nujabes was making these beats that had that like bossa nova, jazzy inspiration with the classical guitar. And we had a classical guitar at the house. So it started with just like, I knew classical guitar and rain. So
Simple.
Yeah, super simple. So we did that, and you couldn't hear it, but you'll hear it later when it comes out on DSPs and Spotify and whatnot. That's like that little section, and then a few other sections, and they loop with the rain, and then Dan went in and added everything else that's on there.
Yeah, you can see kind of in the session right now that there's a lot of loops going on. There's a lot of repetition, and there's a lot of sequencing here. It's not a very complex orchestrated thing. It's just like really cool, simple sounds that you kind of piece together, and you just set a mood because you don't want to surprise anyone, because you don't want someone to be working on homework
Yeah,
and
they'll
then
get
like
distracted.
scribble really fast because they hear something shocking. So it's all just kind of about like creating an atmosphere and creating something that feels like you can close your eyes and really focus on it, or focus on nothing.
Yeah.
Or focus on nothing. How long does it take you to make a lo-fi beat?
It really depends. I mean, we made 2 of them. And this was one that
This was the less complex one. Probably.
Yeah. This one didn't take us too long because it like Jordan said, he laid down a guitar part and he was like, oh, I laid this down, and I kind of went in and was like, oh, I have all these ideas for different things. And this was one that was cool because we liked it so much. We were like, man, if we wrote some lyrics over this could totally be a Toledo song and no one would know. But that's what's kind of the most exciting about it, is we're giving people like a little bit of taste of Toledo because it still feels like it has our flavor to it, but with it being a little bit of a twist on the genre. So it really varies. Some songs could take a whole day, and some songs like this could take, a couple hours. And that's the cool thing about, kids going to school now and everyone having access to recording technology like Logic Pro and Ableton. It's like, if you're going to school for music, or like I did, or you're going to school for theater like Jordan did, like there's a lot of access online that you can do to be able to make sure you're doing things yourself and learning about things on your own, even if you're going to school for being a veterinary technician, but you want to do some music stuff on the side. It's always kind of something to do, and I'm sure a lot of colleges have access to that kind of software.
Yeah, and nothing that you heard, like the only expense really is, you have a computer that you work on, and the classical guitar probably wasn't that expensive. It might have been like $100, $200.
And then you rip loops.
Yeah, just stuff on Splice or whatever, and it's accessible. And we do music stuff in New York City, and we work with people from all varying degrees of like how far along into their process they are. And some people are just doing stuff like what we did with the lo-fi beat. They're just on their computer using loops, but it's everyone has the creative mind to do stuff like that, and that doesn't cost anything. So
the sound mind, even.
Maybe.
Well said. And I'm curious too, because you mentioned that if you put some words over the beat, it'd be the Toledo flavor. So how would you define that flavor? Tell me a little bit more about Toledo and how it started. And what sound do you guys like to have?
That's a good question. I think that Toledo kind of started, we've known each other for 17 years now. We met literally busking on the street of our hometown in Massachusetts, playing guitar for a little bit of change in our top hats or guitar cases. Probably then it was top hats because we were listening to like Jason Mraz and stuff.
Yeah.
But we kind of started there, and then we never stopped playing music.
Yeah, and something that's, I think, slightly different from our approach, or at least at the time, was that we weren't, because it's just the two of us, we weren't like a band that was going out and playing live shows a lot. We really were working in GarageBand just for fun. Like we started out making joke songs together, and then eventually when we felt comfortable in our feelings and expressing them around each other, then we were able to like
Write only
real with
sad songs then after that.
But all we're about really is just trying to have fun and entertain each other and draw from our various influences. And we get really excited about equipment. Like we just bought this drum machine today, so that's like songs will probably start where we'll just like press a bunch of buttons on this and be like, that sounded cool, and then we eventually release it.
And then you write a song and you're good to go.
And that process has just been repeating for a long time now.
So I guess the big through line with Toledo is it's just kind of like every song is a conversation that Jordan and I are having with each other, and it's an invitation with instruments, and it's an invitation for people to be a part of that conversation or listen in.
Wow.
So I guess
so
that's
I wouldn't say like the lo-fi thing isn't Toledo. Like that's all the same kind of stuff that we.
As long as we're involved in it, it feels very much like our kind of thing, you know?
Yeah. It's way better than my day job. Shoot. That's so fun. What a good life.
Well, you're welcome to come across the street and sing a little bit on some of these tunes. You let us know.
Yes, I'm gonna have to come. That's my therapy, like I said. So what is next for Toledo?
Probably use the drum machine that we got.
We got a lot of recording trips coming up. We've got some tour dates coming up. We're kind of like full force right now, and it's pretty exciting. So we're hopefully going to be on the road in August, maybe playing a couple colleges, hopefully in the fall. So hopefully we can see some of you guys there, and it's going to be really cool. I can't say much, but we've got a lot of new songs in the works, and we're very excited about them.
Very exciting. Yes. Well, I'm so happy that we got to chat today with my neighbors. And I really want to like hear a little bit about your actual songs. I want to hear you guys sing. So do you guys have like a video that we could play?
You don't want us to do live?
I don't want to do live.
Yeah,
I'm not ready. I haven't warmed up my vocal cords today.
It's too hot in the city. Let's just play some videos.
Yeah, we've got a video of a couple songs, Que Pasa and Not, that we hope you guys enjoy.
Awesome.
1, 2, 3.
Hey, what's up?
We're Toledo.
This song, it's called Que Pasa.
Hope you enjoy it. I made my bed and was sure to turn the lights off in the den. I told you all. Was so convinced that when we argued you were wrong, but you know, ¿qué pasa? What's going on? What's wrong? ¿Qué pasa? I made a bed
song's called Nah. Goes out to Sally Mae.
Good one, Dan. Can we talk? I don't feel good with how we left it all up in the air like this. I think that you should tell me off. It's better to get it off your chest. And everyone walks away lesser in the end. But what did you expect? I run in circles, going mad, telling myself jokes. I was the best you've ever still tangled in motion. Is this what you think I wanted from afar? I didn't notice you 2 feet out the door and onto someone else. Should have been honest with yourself. Isn't it strange? You held me on your bathroom floor. It's a cage I wander back to when I need space. Well, what did you expect? I run in circles, going mad, telling myself jokes. I was the best you've ever still tangled in motion. Is this what you think I wanted from afar? I didn't notice you 2 feet out the door and onto someone else. Should have been honest with yourself. Well, what did you expect? You got off on hurting me, and I am still tangled and broken. Is this what you really wanted from the start? I didn't notice. Oh, those 2 faces of yours, you're so messed up. Just move on and I am stuck. I couldn't love anyone else. I should have loved anyone else. Now I'll never love anyone else. Thank you, Sally Mae. See you in a sec.
So talented. Thank you to Toledo for joining me. I hope you guys enjoyed the music as well. And unfortunately, time flies by when you're having fun. So we are at the end of the show, y'all. And I wish we had more time, but I want to really quickly, lightning fast speed, recap everything we learned tonight and also all the resources you guys should check out. So first, the Hacked series is on YouTube, and it's packed with helpful info on navigating college finances. So go watch all 6 episodes if you have the time. Student life is complicated, but my co-hosts and I can uncomplicate it for you with Campus Underground podcasts, where you guys can listen to that wherever you listen to your podcasts. And then lastly, maintaining your mental health is so important. So please make this a priority when you start your college journey. And listening to amazing music can also be your therapy, like it was for me. So with bands like Toledo, it can reduce stress, improve your mood, and help you stay focused. So keep listening to good music that brings you happiness. And with that, that's our show today. Thank you so much for coming to edYOU. On behalf of Sally Mae, I would like to thank all of our incredible guests today: Troy Baker, Carlin Green, Colby Martell, Lindsay Fleming, Jorge Alvarez, and Dan and Jordan from Toledo. If there's anything from tonight's show that you want to rewatch, guess what? This live stream is going to be available on Sally Mae's YouTube for as long as the internet exists. You're welcome. So if you, your family, your dog, or anyone who needs some college help kickstarting their journey, they can watch this. So thank you guys again. Good luck with your college journey and have a good night. Signing off. Bye, guys.